So just so we can start now, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about early childhood development. So just give me 1 second. Damaris, would you be able to share my screen?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Okay.
Let me make you the co-host again. Okay, you should be able to share it now.
Thank you. Okay, are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am the early childhood specialist. My name is Janessa Gray, and I work for Central Jersey Family Health Consortium. The program that I work for is Healthy Women, Healthy Families, and our program focuses on providing women of childbearing age and their families access to resource information and referrals to local community service that promotes child and family wellness. And in my role as an early childhood specialist, I promote early childhood development to families with children from birth to 5 years old. I also support the families in learning about developmental milestones. And we offer a developmental screening tool called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And this is something that we offer to all families. It's available to all families who live in New Jersey, and it is free of charge. And this is a way that you can monitor your child's development. I also connect families to community resources and support in relations to child development, as well as other resources that you may need that's in your community. So you might wonder, what is early childhood development? This is something that you may hear often. This can be mentioned by your pediatrician or by your child care provider, but this is often a topic that is brought up when you have young children. And just to give you a brief summary of what that is, it is referred to how a child is growing physically, mentally, and emotionally. There are 5 key areas of development when we talk about early childhood development. That includes gross motor, fine motor, personal, social, communication, and problem solving. Just to give you a little bit about each one of these areas. So with gross motor, that is when you're working on your large muscles. So the child may be working with their large muscles. This can be an example of when a child is starting to learn how to crawl or walk, when they're jumping, running, that's using their larger muscles. Those are gross motor skills. Then we have fine motor development, and this is when a child is using their hands and finger movements and coordination. So for example, this can be when your infant is starting to self-feed. Maybe they're using the pincer grasp, that is their thumb and a pointer, to pick up smaller objects, and maybe the coordination is putting the food in their mouth. You can see the baby on the right, they are using their fine motor skills by holding onto the block. Then you have personal social, and that is where you're looking at self-care and interaction with others when you're looking at your child. So this can be an example of when a baby is recognizing the differences in familiar faces versus a new person, maybe a stranger. You may notice that they may cling on you. That is showing that they are developing socially, or just recognize socially that they know the familiar person. So this is just an example of social skills. Another one is communication. This is the language skills, and this is what your child can say and understand. So for example, you may start with a baby cooing and babbling, and then they start to form words. And after they form words, they may combine words together. So that's them that's them saying words, that's them expressing their language. Then you have the understanding, which is receptive. That is them understanding. And that usually takes place before a child can say a word. So for example, that can be if you were to call your baby by their name, they will look at you and make eye contact with you. Or that can be giving a simple command to your 1-year-old or 2-year-old. Come here, sit down. They're understanding the language that you're communicating with them. And then you have problem solving. And that is how your child plays and thinks. So for example, an example of that can be when you have your child in a high chair and maybe they are playing with something or have food in their hand and they throw it. You pick it up, give it back to them, they throw it again. That's their problem solving skills. They're realizing that they're able to throw something, you pick it up, and it's going back and forth. They're learning and thinking and realizing that cause and effect. So those are just that's the basic areas of development that typically we focus on. And those examples that I gave are called milestones. And you may hear these words also, milestone, that word milestones. And that is basically a checkpoint or a guideline that you're within a child's development to determine what's the average age, what the average child is able to do at a particular age. I apologize. So this is basically, they're saying by a certain age, your child should be doing X, Y, and Z. So that is just a guideline. Again, it's not to say that for sure by this age your child is going to do this skill. This is just a clinical guideline and checkpoint. So it's not to make you too cautious if your child isn't doing a certain skill by a certain age, but it is a good idea to talk to the pediatrician about it, or even doing something like a developmental screening so that you are monitoring what they're doing and possibly getting them some more assistance if it's needed. Okay, so now that you know what early childhood development is, and you know what milestones are, these are some things that you can think about that you can do as a parent or a child care provider or a caregiver to support your child's development. I just want you to make sure that you know that babies are born ready to learn, and you are their first teachers as a parent or caregiver. So when they're born and they're ready to, when they're born and ready to learn, what your baby's doing, their brain grows the most rapid from pregnancy till 5 years old. So I just want you to keep that in the back of your head. It's very important to interact and engage with your baby as early as possible because they are learning so early. And some of the things that you can do is things that may be simple, and that's playing with your child, reading, singing, dancing, talking, and making sure you make eye contact and that positive attachment with your child. And as I mentioned earlier, screening your child developmentally just to make sure that they are meeting those milestones. And if there are concerns, knowing where to go to discuss those concerns, maybe the pediatrician or myself, like an early childhood specialist who can guide you and give you the resources that you need to get them support if it's needed. And connect with resources in your community. You have the library, Family Success Center, home visitation programs, parenting groups, early intervention if it's needed. And just to go a little more detail about developmental screenings, as I mentioned earlier, we are offering the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And just to give you a little information about what that is, it is a tool used to look at how your child is doing developmentally. It can be used to identify your child's strengths as well as any areas where your child may need support. And this tool, if you were to access it, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes long to answer the questions. It is a questionnaire. It's specific for your child's age, and it's based on what you're observing as a parent or a caregiver. And it is available for children who are 2 months to 5 years old who resides in New Jersey. There are early childhood specialists throughout New Jersey in every county. So if you are interested in linking to the Mercer early childhood specialist, that is myself, and I will give you my information soon. And these are the websites that you can log on to complete that questionnaire. It's both in English and in Spanish. So some additional supports and services. We have Central Intake Family Connections. That is part of the program that I work for, so it's under the Healthy Women, Healthy Families. And what we do is connect families to resources in a community. There is a toll-free that you can call if you are looking to connect to any services, the central intake specialists, they can connect you to resources like the Family Success Centers, local libraries, home visitation programs, and that's just to name a few things. There's also connecting to the Board of Social Services, WIC, baby pantries, food pantries. So basically anything that can support a family. And then these are some developmental websites that I did mention that are a great resource for families to have. One is through the CDC. It's the Act Early program, and you can access that through the CDC website. They're great resources about child development and things that you could do with your child. And then there's another one called Room, and you can also access that. There's also great resources and activities. But after doing an ages and status questionnaire, you can also connect with myself, and I will provide you with some activities that you can do and more one-on-one support around you and your child. So early Central Jersey Family Health Consortium, we have a YouTube channel, and the one that is connected to the early childhood specialist is called Early Childhood Corner. Our website is here, and I'm going to enter all of this into the chat box so you do have that. And some of the videos that you can access, these are the topics that we have at this time. So it talks about the ASQ. We also have self-compassion and parenting. There is another one, A Parent's Guide to Safety During the Pandemic, how to help children access their creativity, 8 good ways not to stress, and how to give and teach compassion to your child. So I highly recommend to use our Facebook to get some more insight on these topics. We also have our Facebook page, and you can follow us. We put up and post information about child development and tips that you can use, and any resources or any events that are going on in the community. And here is my contact information. Again, I'm going to put this in the chat box, but if you do have any questions, please reach out to me. You can email me or call me and leave me a message. At this time, I'm not in the office, but you can still call me and leave me a message, and I will get that. And here's my information. Again, I'm going to put this in the chat box. Okay. And that is the information about early childhood development. Hold on one second. And again, if you have questions, Damaris is going to allow you to ask those questions at the end. And Damaris, I'm not sure if you want to
I think if you go down to share screen and the little arrow, it should tell you to stop sharing.
Okay.
Or down at the bottom, it'll tell you to stop sharing.
Okay.
Or I might be able to do that for you.
I'm not seeing that because it's only giving me the video, like everyone's videos.
Oh.
It's not giving me.
Okay. Oh, no, that's a screen recording. Well, here, let me start my screen sharing, and then maybe that will stop yours. Hold on a moment.
About that.
Let me see if I can get mine. Yes.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you, Janessa, and thank you all for being here tonight. As Janessa mentioned, my name is Damaris Azan. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Trenton Free Public Library. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about early literacy and how you can help your young child get ready to learn to read. So literacy is the ability to read and write, but what is early literacy? So early literacy is described as everything a child learns during his first 5 years before he actually starts learning or she starts learning to read. Early literacy has been broken down into 5 separate skills that children should be developing in their first 5 years. The first one is oral language. That's simply the language that we speak. The next skill is phonological awareness, and that's the understanding that words are made up of smaller sounds. For example, train might only have 1 syllable, but it's made up of 2 sounds, tr and ain, similar to book, buh and ook. And that's important later on when kids begin learning to read and need to break down words in order to sound them out. The third skill is print concepts. And that's just simply the idea that the black markings on the page represent letters, which in turn represent sounds that make up words. We have also writing, and that's learning to make marks on paper and understanding that when it's done in a specific way, those markings represent letters. And finally, we have alphabet knowledge. So that's recognizing letters and knowing not only their names, but the sounds that the letters make as well. So that might sound a little complicated if you're going to memorize those, but you don't. We just want to concentrate not on so much knowing those, but on how we develop those early literacy skills. So I just want to let you know it's not hard, and you're probably doing most of these already, whether you're a parent or you're a caregiver of a child or you're a preschool teacher. So the 5 simple activities that you can do on a daily basis, number 1 is talking. So as babies, we learn language by hearing it spoken to us. So we should be talking to our kids from the moment that they're born. We don't have to worry that they don't understand us yet. Understanding comes with time, and studies shows that exposure to spoken words is necessary for understanding. So when they're babies, you can talk and sing to them about really basically anything. And then as they get older, you want to start talking to them about as you go about your day, what you see around you, what you're doing, what you're involved with, what they're doing, anything just to keep a conversation going with them. And you don't have to use simple language with them. You want to use language that they understand, but don't be afraid of speaking, of using more difficult words, because that's how they build vocabulary. Next is singing. And for those of us that can't sing, don't worry, because babies really don't care whether you can sing, you know, a tune or not. But this is a great way for children to hear language, and singing helps them develop that phonological awareness that we were talking about before, the realization that words are made up of smaller sounds. Things like finger plays, rhymes, and songs, especially children's versions of them, slow down language so kids can really hear the different sounds that make up the word. If you think of the song like the Itsy Bitsy Spider, which most of us know, the Itsy Bitsy Spider, you can see how it really slows down and emphasizes each of the sounds that the words are made up of. The beat and tune of a song also help children memorize word sounds even before they understand what it means. The next activity is playing. So for children, playing is their job. And among many other things, children learn language by interacting with each other and their environment around them through play. Playing can be a solitary activity, but we also want to encourage you to give your child opportunities to play with children their age, and also for you to get down on the floor and play with them. Play with the young children. That brings in, you know, you can sing, you can talk. It just brings in a lot of the different skills that we'll be talking about when you get down and start playing with your kids. Next is writing. So obviously babies and young children aren't going to be writing words yet, but the skills that they need to develop, as Janessa was talking, these are skills that they need to develop before they begin to write words. They need to build and develop the little muscles in their hands when we're talking about the fine motor skills. So to help them, be sure to give them opportunities to do activities like drawing, give them coloring pages, or just give them a crayon and have them just scribble on a piece of paper. You can give them, when they're old enough, you can give them a pencil, and then they can pretend to write you a letter, and then you can look at your letter and read it, and you know, that can be a plaything. But just that act of holding the pencil, holding the crayon, and making the marks on the paper really helps build those skills. You can also do simple things like simple art and craft projects when they're old enough. You can search Pinterest for ideas, but you can do really simple things like just give them a piece of paper and have them tear off little pieces of the paper. That helps strengthen the muscles, and then they can just glue on those little pieces of paper onto another bigger sheet. They'll be entertained for hours doing that. Another thing that helps build the fine motor skills is using scissors. It's also a really good skill to learn. You can buy at the dollar store the children's scissors that have the blunt ends, and you just give them a piece of paper and then just have them practice cutting. Once they can cut, then you can do something like draw a straight line on the paper and ask them to try cutting along the line. As they get better at that, you can start doing squiggles and curves and just making it a little bit more challenging to them. And then finally, we have reading, the last activity. Shared reading gets kids ready to read. So read aloud to the kids, start it early and do it often, a few times, a few books a day. Kids' books are, they're not that long, so you can easily get 3 or 4 books in a sitting if the child has the attention span for that. Not all of them do. Some of them you might get through 2 pages, and that's fine. You want to let them lead you as to what they're comfortable and interested in. So you want to find an enjoyable time to read. At night when you're cuddling in bed before they go to bed is perfect time, but also during the day. Do it when your child is in a good mood. Don't give it to them as a punishment. You can cuddle on the couch or in bed. Make sure that you make it a really positive experience. Give your child a choice in the books that you're reading to them. They're going to have their favorites, and they're going to ask you to read it over and over and over again. And you're going to get sick of them, and you're going to try to hide them, because I've done that. But that repetition is actually a really good thing. It helps them to learn new words, and they'll be able to tell you what comes next in the story, and it'll get them participating more in the reading. You can also helps you make the storytelling more interactive. You can ask them to what happens next. If they know the story so well, they'll be able to tell you, and they'll be really excited about telling you that. Or they might be able to just read you the book themselves. Even though they're not actually reading the words, they'll be able to tell you the story. And that's a really big skill for them to develop. Sorry, there we go. The other thing with having them, if they know the story, you can change things up, and you can make a mistake and they'll correct you, or you can add something silly and then, they'll catch you on that. They love to point out your mistakes. You can also make it fun by using different voices, ask them questions about what they're reading. You can talk about the illustrations. And then you can also extend the activity by adding in a related craft or activity. It helps them make connections with the books that they read. And again, it's also good for coordination and fine motor skills. So incorporating those 5 activities into your daily lives will help your child get started on the road to reading. If you want more information and resources, you can visit the kids pages at the Trenton Free Public Library webpage. It's www.trentonlib.org. Especially useful is the online library area, which offers ebooks and audiobooks for all ages. And you can also check out the For Parents and Educators area that offers links to activities. I just want to warn you, the website is new, so it's not completely finished yet. I'm going to have an early literacy area that will have more information, and also YouTube videos that will have children's songs and finger plays. So I'll be putting that up in the next month or so. And last, I just wanted to let you know about our summer reading program for the library. It started yesterday, June 15th. It goes on to August 15th. It has levels for all types of readers. The ones that you might be most interested in is the Read to Me group. It's for kids who aren't yet reading. So what you would do is you would register them and then log the books that are being read to them, whether they're read by you, by a caregiver, preschool, older brother and sister. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it's a book that they're listening to. And then once they reach certain goal levels, they read certain books, reach a certain goal, they can come to the library and pick up a prize. And I'll put a link to that in the chat area. So thank you all for listening, and we have a few minutes for any questions that anyone might have.